What's up, Cleveland? We're walking and talking on our way to the stadium for the Browns season or home finale, I should say, against the Miami Dolphins. We know what's at stake for the Browns at this point, and it's really just kind of playing for draft picks, which, interestingly enough, there's a lot of scores in the early stretch of games that could help the Browns in terms of their positioning in the draft. Jaguars and Titans is an important one. The Giants beating up on the Colts is an important one. So we'll see how all those things shake out. But the Browns' chances of, if you're somebody rooting for a loss for the better draft position, their chances of that kind of hurt today by the news pregame, obviously, that Tua Tagovailoa will not be playing in this game. It'll be Tyler Huntley. And so you get the battle of these two backup quarterbacks who have similar styles, but quarterbacks that we're familiar with because Tyler Huntley was obviously part of this team in the preseason, training camp, during the offseason. And so that sort of sets the stage for a game that is going to probably produce some bad quarterback play, some bad offensive play, and could end up being a battle for first team to 10 to 14 points, somewhere in that range wins. We'll see how that all sort of comes to fruition, what it all looks like. If Dorian Thompson-Robinson can have a better outing than he did last week, I can tell you I'm not expecting much from DTR, considering, as I've said for weeks, that I think we already kind of know who he is, what he is as a quarterback. And I think the Browns are kind of just giving it one last shot with him to sort of determine, as they head into an offseason with a lot of questions, whether or not he's part of any type of plans at the quarterback position for them, starter, backup, or otherwise. And I think today will be even more revealing in that process as they'll for sure understand kind of where they're at. And I actually think it could even pave the way for them to consider, I don't know if they will, but consider starting Bailey Zappi in Week 18. Because if you're evaluating, you might as well evaluate everything, right? So we'll see what all that looks like. In the meantime, Browns are also going to be shorthanded. Jerry Jeudy still is your top target, and he's really going to be the main focus in this one from a passing standpoint because there's no David Njoku, there's no Cedric Tillman yet again. Dolphins, though, only really have Tyreek Hill. So, again, along the lines of it being sort of an offensive struggle today, I think that certainly could be the case because both teams are lacking and missing weapons here that aren't going to be out there with them. Defensively, I sort of think the setup of Miami having one of the better rush defenses in football. They're top 8 in terms of run defense this year. And the Browns, on a sloppy day nonetheless, maybe turning to the run game a little bit more and trying to utilize Jerome Ford a little bit more and sort of bank on him being a focal point of their offense. I think that's going to be an interesting sort of dynamic here because the Dolphins have been able to stop the run quite a bit this year. And so how much are you trusting Dorian Thompson-Robinson to make plays on a sloppy day? And again, a guy who's turnover prone, you don't want him to make those mistakes in a day where rain could be a factor, weather could be a factor, and you already have enough of a sort of behind the eight ball enough already with him under center. You know that's a risk that you have to kind of take. So we'll see. We'll see what all that kind of looks like. Another sort of small storyline here is the fact that Myles Garrett has a chance he gets 2 sacks today, posts 14 sacks for the 4th straight season, at least 14 sacks, which is something that no one's ever done. So he can continue his Hall of Fame resume in an impressive way. And maybe I want to be clear on this because I don't think Myles Garrett is playing his last game with the Browns here today. But if it is his last game with the Browns because he forced his way out this offseason, this is it. This is his last chance to run out on the field at Huntington Bank Field in that jersey from the tunnel, all those things. And so maybe that carries a little bit of sentiment for Browns fans who are attending today to potentially see Myles Garrett for the last time. But again, I don't think that's the case. That could very well be the case, though, for another veteran player that fans know and love very well in Joel Bitonio. If Bitonio decides to retire this offseason, this really could be his last game out there. And I know that'll certainly be a loss that fans would hate to see because he hasn't – I don't know that he quite has the fame and the adoration as Joe Thomas gets. There's levels to these things, and Joe Thomas is an absolute Cleveland icon. But it was kind of nice to see those two play together. And then he sort of took the reins as kind of being a staple offensive lineman on this team that kind of holds things down and stays with Cleveland for his whole career. And so, yeah, like it very well could sort of be a goodbye to Joel Bitonio today, and we'll see what happens. And I'm sure the team is encouraged to try to get a win for somebody like Joel and go out and play. And that's always the big factor as we talk about, trying to lose in terms of draft positioning and doing it for that and for that reason and tanking, if you will. I mean, I don't think the Browns are tanking, but you get what I'm saying. It's always a hard thing to thread the needle on because the biggest factor out there is that the fact that the players are still out there playing and they're not on board with that. Like, they're not just going out there to play football and lose. Like, they're going to try to win these games. It's what's happening with the Giants today. So that's the one thing you can't account for. And we'll sort of see what it looks like. I think if the Browns are in the name of trying to lose, they are putting themselves in the best position possible to do it because, again, Dorian Thompson-Robinson limits what you can do, and this team's banged up as it is. So I forget what my score prediction was, honestly, in the prediction piece over at Cleveland Browns on SI. I can tell you now I think it was too high. I think it was 20-something to 17 or something like that. Given the weather, given the fact that the over-under for this game is the lowest of the season for any game this year, I am dropping my score prediction. I'm going to say Dolphins win 13-12. Dustin Hopkins misses a PAT, and that's how they lose. I hope I'm wrong. I don't want Dustin to keep missing kicks, but I don't know. I'm trying to keep the score low is where I'm going for here. All right, guys, I'll be at the stadium here shortly. In the meantime, I encourage you, as always, to head on over to the Cleveland Browns on SI YouTube channel, where some of you might be watching this right now, and see what we got cooking over there in terms of video content. We'll have post-game coverage for you, post-game interviews, press conferences, and of course our post-game stand-up recapping what transpires on the field tonight or today. And as always, head on over to si.com/NFL/Browns. You can find any of our written content. The inactives are up all over there. I have my pregame column from this morning, which is all about Andrew Berry and how he has to sort of lead the charge out of this thing before anybody should be calling him like a savvy GM for just moving money around on the Deshaun Watson contract. And we'll have more content throughout the game and obviously after the game over as well at si.com/NFL/Browns. I'll talk to you guys again real soon. Anthony will be with me post-game. We look forward to recapping it with you. In the meantime, enjoy the game and be sure to follow along for all your Cleveland Browns content with the Cleveland Browns on SI.